And good morning, everybody. Welcome, Hot Takes Goodman and Renck. Troy, how was the weekend?
Fantastic. Had a chance to watch a lot of college baseball, watch some sports, get some stuff done around the house. All good. How about you?
Things were great. My daughter was out of town for Valentine's Day with her boyfriend. So my wife and I actually had a weekend to ourselves. So it was quiet. The house remained clean. And it was great. Can't wait for her to come back today. But it was nice to be able to spend some quality time with my wife. With that, I want to tell you about the Sportsbook Bar and Grill. You can find them in Highlands Ranch, the DTC, and Parker. It is a great place to watch sports, Nuggets and Avs, chasing championships. The baseball season is going to be starting soon. But more than just having a great seat in the house wherever you are sitting, because every wall is just plastered with big screen televisions. The food there is great as well. I have walked in there at noon into multiple locations, and it's busy because the menu is really that good. Judson and Jeremy put together this sports bar well over a decade ago. They grew to more locations. It is truly a sports bar that was put together by sports fans. When you walk in, I think you might say, I would have done it the same way. Sportsbook Bar and Grill. You can find them in Highlands Ranch, the DTC, and Parker as well. Time now for the lead.
The lead is presented by Sasquatch Casino, a family-owned casino that treats you like family.
Well, Nuggets fans might not have been cheering for Team World at the All-Star game, but they were certainly curious to see what Jokić and Jamal Murray would do. But before we get to those two guys, did you like the new format? Has the NBA finally gotten it right, considering it looked like, to me, more real basketball, not playground basketball, and there was actually guys playing defense?
Yeah, they saved the All-Star game. It's the first time it was watchable in at least 5 years. I mean, last year with Chris Rock and whatever that was just an absolute epic failure in every way imaginable. It was embarrassing, which is hard to do when you have the best athletes in the world. But they made it competitive. There was effort, consistent effort. I think Anthony Edwards and Victor Wembanyama set the tone of what it was going to be like.
Yep. And
they ran out of gas. The old guys for the Americans ran out of gas in that fourth game. But 4 12-minute quarters, and it was competitive. There was a semblance of defense. So I think they saved the All-Star game, Eric.
I don't think any reasonable person would question that the Major League Baseball All-Star game is the best because it is the most true to the actual sport. On the other side of the pendulum, I don't see how the Pro Bowl ever brings back a game. So with that, I would have said hockey was number 2 when it comes to the All-Star game. NBA was number 3. Has that flipped?
Yeah, for me, it has for now. We'll see if hockey makes any adjustments. Baseball still has the most true game, competitive game, because you can't fake baseball on the pitching side of it. So that part will always be consistent. And since whenever they had the tie game in Milwaukee, I can't remember the year now, and guys stopped leaving in the second and third inning, it's been a much more a game that resembles what it looks like during the season. Hockey has gotten the way of the NBA in terms of the goals. And you guys don't play any defense. So we'll see. What I saw yesterday, I would put at number 2. Now, can they go 4 quarters of it, or do they have to tweak the the American teams, and are there enough world players to remain consistently competitive? I don't know, but the format itself, 4 quarters of mixing and matching, that resembled kind of an AAU basketball tournament of guys kind of going hard. It wasn't 100%. I'm not naive, but it looked more like the game we watched during the season.
Kevin Durant made some comments before the All-Star game that Jokić and Doncic don't take the All-Star game seriously. Now, I kind of find that rich when a lot of other players kind of goof around. But what he was really saying is that those guys don't even really want to be there. Well, we watched the first game for the world team. Jokić plays the opening 5 minutes. I think Doncic plays maybe the opening 5 minutes. I understand both are dealing with some injuries, but then they never showed up again for the rest of the games. Jokić said after the game, he said, well, essentially, I didn't want to play a lot because, I'm kind of nursing injuries, and that was always the plan. Is there some truth to what Durant said? Or do you say 100%, you know what, Jokić did the right thing and didn't play for the majority of the games?
Right. Jokić did the right thing this time because he's clearly still not 100% coming back from that knee injury. Anyone watched the Memphis game, the Nuggets' last game to Memphis? He was limping around. He didn't look right. I was, frankly, a little surprised he played at all. So he did the right thing. But in fairness, Durant's criticism is not totally off base. And here's why. Is anytime Durant or LeBron or anyone does anything regarding the All-Star game, and LeBron's the one that set the tone for this to be terrible. He's the one that decided it wasn't going to be a regular game and it was just going to be a showcase, and guys follow his lead, so it got progressively terrible. But he and Durant and those guys got all the criticism. So Durant's point was, why is it only targeted at me and 4 other guys when some of these European guys clearly don't give a crap about the game? Right. And in that sense, I thought that was fair because we all watch it, and no great player in the history of the NBA has been less interested or less stylistically attracted to an All-Star game than Jokić. He plays below the rim. Everything he does is nuanced. It's a slower, inevitable game, so nothing he does shows up in the game. So I don't think he cares if he's there. It does nothing for his profile. He doesn't care about his profile. So, but to be fair to Durant, who can pop off and say some dumb stuff, in this case, I don't think he was totally wrong, Eric. I don't know how you feel about it. I'm not trying to be the guy defending Durant, but in this very narrow scope, I don't think he's totally wrong. Now, in this case, they were hurt. Both of them have had injuries, public injuries. But I just think Durant had a point in this when he started talking about why is it always us? Some of these other guys who are premier players in the league don't give a crap either.
Okay, let's look at Jamal Murray. He was asked before the game, you know, a lot of guys don't take it seriously, so on and so forth. And I'm very much paraphrasing here. Murray said, fine, I'm going to work my tail off and I'll win the MVP. I'm more than happy to take home the MVP. Well, you look at game 1 for Murray, and it was a tough watch. He was making bad decisions. He was driving to the lane with 4 guys in the lane. I'm like, oh, Jamal, you are not representing yourself well in this particular game. And he played a lot of minutes in the All-Star game. One reason why SGA was out because of injury. Then you go to game 2 for the world team. And Murray starts to play better. He scored, I think, 8 points in that second game, then made some poor decisions at the end of it. Did you find yourself rooting for Murray, even though he was playing against the Americans?
In an all-star game, yes, it's fine. You want to see the local guy do well. I've covered enough Rockies in all-star games where you're waiting for Todd Helton or Larry Walker's one at bat. And sure, you'd like to see a home run. Yeah. It makes it more interesting for the local paper. You always localize when you do news.
Correct.
And so you want to see him do well. It doesn't, the game doesn't count. What was fascinating to me was, and it's kind of typical Jamal, what makes him great sometimes can obviously be a flaw. He's stubborn. And he's not understanding the rhythm of an all-star game at all. Like, you don't just drive in. It's like against the zone defense and drive into the middle where 4 guys are standing around. He thought like it was just going to be effort. Now, in years past, his strategy probably would have worked because guys would have let him go right to the basket. In this game, I'm like, dude, where are you going? It's a 3-point shooting contest. Like, drive dish. Like, they're not going to just give you the basket. And so, but at least he rebounded a little bit in terms of the scoring. We got a better, but you could see, which is, it's crazy to think that these guys get nervous or be out of sync. He was completely out of sync in the 3-point contest, and he was completely out of sync in the first 12 minutes of that game. If he ever goes back, I'm sure he'll do better, but it's just part of there's a rhythm to those events. I've been to a million MLB All-Star games, and there's just a weird rhythm to those events.
Yeah, it looked like in that first game, Jamal Murray should not have been an All-Star.
Correct.
That's what it looked like to me.
Yeah, he's getting the ball stolen, missed shots, totally out of sync.
Yeah. Okay, I want to get into a column that you wrote over the weekend in the Post. It was titled, Nuggets Must Face the Truth. A championship run hinges on defense, not health. Here's an excerpt from your column. If the Nuggets don't at least reach the NBA Finals, it would represent a bigger missed opportunity than the Broncos falling to the Patriots in the AFC Championship game. At least the Broncos had an excuse: no Bo Nix and a coach who forgot to kick. No reasonable person, Troy, would question the Nuggets' defensive issues. They are not ranked high in many categories, specifically in those clutch minutes at the end, something that Michael Malone always talked about when he was the head coach. Even when overall the defense wasn't very good for the team, he'd say, look at the clutch minutes. With all that said, their top three defensive guys, Gordon, Christian Brown, and Watson, have all missed time this season. And in some cases, at least two of them have missed considerable amount of time together. With that, I don't want to say it's an excuse for their defense, but they really haven't had a full roster, and they haven't had a chance to really gel. But you're saying, yeah, injuries be damned, they're just not a good defensive team. Injuries aside, and the injuries, and the way I read it was, let's not blame it on injuries at all.
Well, at some point, you can't blame it on injuries when the inferences that you're probably missing in it, I should have made more clear, is when those guys come back, we can't then turn around and say, oh, they didn't play long enough together. I don't want to hear it. I don't. You put this team together to win championships in a window with Jokić. You've known you've had defensive issues. They need Gordon. They clearly do. They need Watson. They need Spencer Jones and Bruce Brown and Christian Brown. There's like 4 or 5 guys on their team that play defense. They've got to be at their best. And now Brown's healthy. He looks better. And Spencer Jones will be back at some point. But at some point, I don't want to hear, oh, man, but those injuries in October, November, and December, they never got in sync. Really? Really? We're talking about that? You know who used to say that all the time? The Rockies, every time Tulo and Cargo got hurt. Injuries become excuses. And when I say it about the Broncos, they had an easy win. The Patriots were terrible in that game. They should have won it. And they would have gotten creamed in the Super Bowl, but they had it on a platform for them right there to take. You don't get that many opportunities. And when Gordon comes back, if he looks anything like himself, Eric, I don't want to hear it. If he comes back, he can't stay on the floor. Yeah, then that's a reason. But right now, I just see so many people setting it up to say, oh, they were hurt. Well, they're all going to come back.
Right.
I don't want to hear that, oh, they didn't have time to gel. Did they have time to gel last year when their coach took over with 3 games left in the season?
Right.
For me, it's just literally a focus issue for them to prioritize it. They played better defense last year when Adelman took over. So I just don't want to set up where we're making excuses for a team with Jokić in his prime and Murray playing out of his mind.
See, this is what I find interesting. When we do a podcast, we have an opportunity to explain ourselves in detail. When you put something on paper in a column, it is up to the interpretation of the reader. And sometimes for the writer, maybe it's not that they don't make their point clear, but it's open potentially for interpretation. The way that I read that column was comparing it to the Broncos, don't blame it on injuries. Well, honestly, when you're rotating 10 guys in, it does take time to gel. And sometimes you're playing 11 guys. This does take time. And you and I had this conversation, I think it was about a week or 2 weeks ago. And you and I believe completely disagree on this. I believe that defense is about effort. You believe it's about skill. I want to read you a quote from a head coach that I just heard. He was asked this question at a press conference. And he said, what's more important when teaching defense, technique or attitude? And the coach said, well, if we get guys who have attitude, then we can teach them technique. I buy into that. I mean, let's look at the championship run for the Nuggets when they won it. You can tell in a game when a team turns up the volume and decides it wants to play defense. It almost feels like everybody is engaged, and bang, it's like a wet blanket on a hot bed of coals. For the Nuggets, to me, it is about attitude and it is about effort. And I do agree with that coach that you can teach defense. Some guys just really don't want to play that much defense. Some guys want to save their energy for the offensive side of the court instead of playing on the defensive side of the court. That has to be a mentality. You can teach somebody to play defense. You can teach them angles and things like that. But I just don't know if they have the effort right now. And to me, that's the problem.
Well, and the problem is their two best offensive players don't play great defense. And so it has to come from somebody else. Everything about their team.
Well, then you need the attitude.
Right. But who sets that? Is that Bruce Brown? Is that Christian Brown?
Well, hold on
Is
a
that
second.
Aaron Gordon? Is that Peyton Watson?
Well,
who
let me just
sets
finish.
that?
Okay, I will give an excuse to Jokić because he's not overly athletic and
Right.
he is sure as hell not a rim protector. But that is not an excuse for Jamal Murray.
It's Murray's just not the same physically. He can't go full effort up and down the court anymore. If you watch him, he's just not capable of that. Where it hurts Jokić is he used to get the ball up toward the three-point line. Now he just sags underneath the free throw line. So now you've got to be better at your switches, and other guys have to cover for him. And I understand that. I'm not saying, I want Jokić to be a prime defender. He's not. He's not. It's not changing. Jamal needs to be functional. He's never going to be a full court kind of press guy anymore. He's not. He's gotten progressively worse. So that's what I'm saying, Eric. Understanding it's not coming from your stars. Where's it coming from on a nightly basis? That's where they miss Gordon. Is he's so respected when he switches off from a 4 to a 5 and he plays multiple positions. That's the guy you point to and say, he's doing it. I need to do it. And so when he's out, it gets a little wonky. And their answer to everything, we'll just outscore everybody. Again, that's really hard to do in the playoffs against the Thunder in Oklahoma City where they get every whistle. Like that strategy is not conducive to the playoffs if we're going to outscore everyone the last 3 minutes of the game because it's just hard to do on the road. You can do it at home most of the time, but where does it come from? That's all. And they still have time. But I'm just setting it out there that let's be honest that they have defensive issues. They rank near the bottom. You're saying, it's terrible the last few weeks.
Not debating it. And that's effort. Okay.
But since Jokić has come back,
Yep.
it got worse because they stand around and watch him. That can't be the case. It can't be we're going to score 130 points. That's not what you want to do.
Hold on. When you watch Jokić, that is on the offensive end. On the defensive end, they are not watching Jokić.
No, but it sets a tone of it doesn't matter what we do because we got the big guy. We're going to score 80% of our possessions. So they're just that mentality becomes, the old, we'll give up 2 to make 3. It's the old plus minus game. Instead of we need to stop and get 2, it's we'll give up 2 to get 3. We'll match threes. That's kind of the mentality I see from them defensively.
Okay, so with that, is that technique from those guys who aren't doing it, or is that effort?
Well, some of it right now is figuring out the pieces because Jones hasn't played and Gordon's out.
So that's injuries.
Right now.
Right.
But it can't be in 2 to 3 weeks. They only have, 26 games left? Everyone's saying, if they have a half season. They don't. The All-Star break in the NBA is at the 3-quarter mark, and I just see everyone setting it up to say, the injuries, darn it. Again, if you didn't have Jokić, I'd say fine. But you have enough time to fix it over these next 2 months, March and April.
Maybe. What if Brown gets injured again? What if Gordon, he is delayed and he's not 100%?
Then you revisit it. That's right. You revisit it and say, now these guys we all thought were coming back never came back. I'm just saying it's setting up for people to make excuses when they're healthy, when they get healthy.
If they are healthy.
I mean, they have plenty of time to get healthy, Eric. Plenty of time.
Well, Aaron Gordon's had a whole season to get healthy, but he keeps getting injured.
Well, he's going to be back in the 1st of March. You should have Watson back about a week after him. You're going to have like a full 5 to 6 weeks of your roster in theory. You better figure it out.
I would say defensively, guys who you would consider dogs, or we have seen this out of them, I should say, who have that mentality are Gordon, Brown, Peyton Watson, right? Spencer Jones. They have all shown that ability. They have to bring that game one no matter who they are playing. If they lose in the opening round, or let's see who they are paired up against the second round, and they don't bring that dog, then yes, they have wasted Jokic's season. That I agree
So
with.
you come around to my point, which is that when healthy, it's got to be better. It just feels like the way it's being covered, the way people are setting up the narrative, that just feels like they're just setting it up to make one big excuse for too many injuries this year. Again, if they don't get healthy, I understand it, but you're conceding the season in some ways in February. You're already getting every excuse in the every excuse and narrative made about why it didn't go right. Can we at least get through the end? And if those guys get healthy, hold them accountable to a certain expectation.
Right.
They're the ones that set championship expectations. They're not us.
I'm going to throw something else at you. You mentioned that OKC's regular season record isn't as good as it was last season. That is fair. But do you really believe the Patriots aren't even comparable to the Thunder in a 7-game series? Please, there's no comparison. I know the Patriots made it to the Super Bowl. Again, let's go to something that you have said and I have said. Look at who the Patriots have played. The Thunder in a 7-game series are a far, 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 not even in the same galaxy. They are not even the same as the Patriots. That is a much tougher road for the Nuggets, by far.
And
they're the defending champs.
If you compare Patriots to Thunder, yes, the Nuggets are way better than the Broncos. Way better. They have player in basketball. Did I miss when the Broncos had an offensive MVP? Broncos offense isn't very good.
Right.
That's why I'm saying the Thunder's a winnable series for them, just as Broncos v. Patriots in that game is a winnable game. It's comparable to how that series would look. The matchup would be similar. You would most people, when healthy in this market, would pick Denver to beat the Thunder in a 7-game series.
Would you?
I would, if they're healthy. They're not, and I don't know what it's going to look like. But the Thunder I'm watching right now is you can pick them off. They've lost 14 games. That's as many as they lost last season. You have a chance to pick them off this year. They're not the same team. They're not. Last year.
Well, why aren't they?
SGA's hurt.
Okay.
The whistle's a little different.
Okay.
And like every championship team that any of you and I have covered, they run out of gas. They lose interest at times because they want to get back to the playoffs.
I'm going to give you a good example of the Chicago Bulls, that when they had their 72-win season, I watched them all the time, and they wouldn't mail in games in the regular season, but they were not playing with the same intensity. But bang, once the playoffs hit, they were ready to go. They were champs. I'm not suggesting that's what OKC is doing right now. And remember, OKC is the hunted as well. Right. For every team in the league, playing Oklahoma City is your NBA final. So they are viewed differently. Look at what the Spurs have done to the Thunder so far this year. And oh, by the way, we had a pretty good view of Wembanyama yesterday, dominating outside of Kawhi Leonard, and I get it. Outside of Kawhi Leonard, Victor Wembanyama, he is flat out dominating the best players in the league. Okay, so let's not discount the Spurs either. And they have a bunch of young talent. You can argue, if you want to, about the Spurs, that the NBA is a ladder league when it comes to winning a championship. You got to take the steps in order to get there. But do you feel overly confident with the Nuggets playing the Spurs with Wembanyama and all that young talent? I don't feel overly confident. No. But to your point, if the Nuggets are healthy and they choose to put in effort defensively from the guys that you know can play defense, I like the Nuggets against anybody. But it's a 2-step program here. They have to be healthy, and they need to commit to playing defense like they did in the championship season. You know, you look at all these pieces that David Adelman has, and he's doing a masterful job of putting guys in at the right time and finding the right combinations and things like that. But you know what? In Oklahoma City, they have figured out how to put 10 or 11 ingredients into a pot of gumbo. They have figured out how to do that. They won a championship last year. Sometimes too many ingredients ruins the pot of gumbo.
Well, with the Thunder, it only works with those ingredients at home. Those guys don't play well on the road. They didn't last year. Where it helps you is at home, you can go to a 10-man bench. So your guys stay fresh when you then go back on the road. You just remain more consistently competitive. We saw last year, the Nuggets bench was Russell Westbrook, literally. And he played well at home. He sucked at OKC. He pressed. He didn't play well. And so when you have a bench like them, because it really, when they get to on the road, it's much more of like 8 guys. It's much more traditional. But again, Nuggets healthy. Everything, if Gordon specifically is healthy, but if they're healthy,
Right.
They can pick them off this year. They can pick them up. I'm not saying they will, but they're just the OKC is vulnerable. They're vulnerable. But for that same reason, the Nuggets are. The Nuggets don't look like we thought they were going to look. They're 35-20. They should probably have 40 wins right now if they were healthy, right? We agree they'd probably be 40-15.
If everybody's healthy,
Maybe 42 wins?
if everybody's healthy.
Well, just for the most part healthy. You're never going to be everybody healthy, but they
Right.
could have easily had 40 wins in the first half.
Yeah. If you don't lose Jokić for that amount of time, you don't lose Gordon for that amount of time, you don't lose Cam Johnson. Now, losing Cam Johnson has turned into, wow, look at Peyton Watson.
Right.
I'm with you. And oh, by the way, Cam Johnson is a pretty good defensive player as well. More than pretty good. They have defensive players on that team. Cam Johnson, Peyton Watson, Aaron Gordon, Bruce Brown, Spencer Jones now, and Christian Brown. They have 6 guys who can play defense. Show me when you are on the floor. Coming up 100%. after the break, Adam Silver said something over the weekend that could be opening a Pandora's box when it comes to tanking. And this is a really interesting concept. And I think for a lot of people, they have already dug in their sides. I think Silver is a nutcase, or boy, this guy is spot on. That's next. Everyone has their favorite barbecue spot. Mine, Smokin' Dave's Barbecue and Brew. My favorites, slowly smoked ribs, smoked corned beef Reuben, smoked meatloaf with a portobello balsamic cream sauce. And don't forget about Smokin' Dave's 16-hour smoked brisket and pork with one of their 4 homemade barbecue sauces. Great sides, you bet. Barbecue beans made with pork and brisket and their southern corned bake. Man, you got to try it. Plus, they have amazing non-barbecue entrees on the menu. Go where I go, Smokin' Dave's Barbecue and Brew in North Denver.
Ferguson's Heating and Cooling is the best in Denver, and their customers agree. Ferguson's has 165 5-star Google reviews, and here's one from Betsy. Highly professional, prompt, and honest. I switched to Ferguson's when I became aware my former company was trying to sell me a whole new system I didn't need. Ferguson's is an honest, working, family-owned business that'll give you a fair price, the highest quality parts and equipment, and they always show up on time. You can trust the Ferguson family like you trust your own family. Go to fergusonsheatingandcooling.com.
Ever wondered where city and county fleet vehicles go when they retire? Now's your chance to find out and score big. Imagine driving away with a great deal on a reliable vehicle. For over 45 years, Roller Auction has been the trusted source for government fleet vehicles and equipment. Trucks, SUVs, sedans, and more, all selling to the highest bidder. Don't miss out. Visit roller.bid/hottakes to get auction updates today. Your next vehicle could be just a click away.
Everyone has their favorite sports bar. Mine, the Sportsbook Bar and Grill in Highlands Ranch, DTC, and now in Parker. All their locations are everything a sports bar should be. An upscale menu with 12 different burgers, outstanding wings, and my favorite, the Philly cheesesteak egg rolls. They've got every game on the NFL Sunday Ticket, MLB Extra Innings, NHL Center Ice, NBA League Pass, plus soccer, rugby, and UFC. Sportsbook, great hangout bar, great for private parties. The Sportsbook Bar and Grill in Highlands Ranch, DTC, and now in Parker. They are the sports bar.
Sasquatch and Wildcard Casinos in Blackhawk have another incredible promotion. They'll be giving away a pair of snowmobiles or nearly $18,000 in cash the weekend of February 20th. It's your choice what you want, the 2 snowmobiles or the cash. Earn daily entries with every locked up jackpot or by redeeming points on your player card. You can also earn a chance to win during their daily cash drawings every 45 minutes between 10 a.m. and midnight. Sasquatch and Wildcard Casinos, loose slots, great promotions, great food, and a family-owned casino that treats you like family.
Ever wondered where city and county fleet vehicles go when they retire? Now's your chance to find out and score big. Imagine driving away with a great deal on a reliable vehicle. For over 45 years, Roller Auction has been the trusted source for government fleet vehicles and equipment. Trucks, SUVs, sedans, and more, all selling to the highest bidder. Don't miss out. Visit roller.bid/hottakes to get auction updates today. Your next vehicle could be just a click away.
And welcome back. Hot Takes, Goodman and Rank. Time now for What's Trending.
What's Trending is presented by Ferguson's Heating and Cooling. Your family should trust the Ferguson family for all your heating and cooling needs, and you'll see why they have over 165 5-star Google reviews. Make an appointment today at fergusonsheatingandcooling.com.
Okay, Troy, Adam Silver said on Saturday that tanking has been worse this year than he has seen in recent memory, and he's considering every possible remedy, including taking away draft picks. He also just recently fined the Jazz and the Pacers for tanking. I believe the Jazz got a $500,000 fine. I'm sure that's pocket change to them. Silver also said he and his advisors would seriously consider abolishing the rookie draft because of tanking and turning rookies into free agents if it's the only way to stop tanking. We can talk about this because this is like an onion with endless layers of positives and negatives. With that at the surface, how do you view this potential solution of abolishing the draft and turning it into free agency?
In theory, it would seem to work, but it won't. I mean, baseball, Scott Boras has wanted it for baseball for 20 years to get rid of the draft because it, unfairly penalized the best players to have to go to crappy teams. In his case is, guys will spend more money. So if they do that, I mean, do you still have a rookie cap? So teams can't outbid you? Like, that's the problem with baseball, at least when Boras was talking about it, is the best teams would then buy the best picks, the top picks. I mean,
well, that's a wrinkle right there. You can't. It makes sense to cap it, but then the big market teams that can pay that cap, that's where players will lean towards going. LA, so on and so forth. What it forces you to do is make sure that you have enough cap space, because unlike baseball with Boras, where there is no salary cap, that is not apples to apples. Now, you can choose to go into the first apron. You can choose to go into the second apron. I might be willing as a GM to go into the second apron, which is totally punitive, to get Victor Wembanyama. I am not willing to do it for a player as great as Cade Cunningham, as an example.
Yeah, or Drew Peterson, for instance, from Kansas this year, or, Boozer's kid out of Duke. I mean, I listen. It's just gotten
at the end of the day, this is capitalism. This is capitalism.
Right.
Why should a kid coming out of DU law have to go to, I don't know, a law firm that isn't very good for 5 years?
100%. And that it penalizes the best guy to have to go to the worst team. And it's not
that makes parity, but that makes parity as well.
It does, but it's not that they're going to the worst team. They go to the worst run team. That's the problem. Yeah. If it were just the worst team, and you're like, they'll help them. It's always the worst run team, so they can't overcome the dysfunction. That's what I feel for guys, especially more in the NFL, where like the same 5-6 teams every year stink because it just starts at the top. Basketball, it's a little different because, you get one or two great players. You can switch it. Football, you need more than that. But again, number one, I don't want to hear OKC bitching about it anymore. They sent Tito Horford home a couple years ago to secure picks. Like, stop. This is them Utah benching a player for 12 minutes or benching a guy for the last 6 minutes. The Thunder was sending a guy home so they didn't win games. So full stop, Thunder. I'm not saying they're wrong about the tanking, but they are the wrong messenger. I don't want to hear it from the Thunder.
Well, that's fine. But looking at the overall prospects of this actually happening, because we value capitalism, okay, and the truest form of it, and I look at what you just said with the potential cap. I don't think that solves the problem because a lot of teams will be able to get to that cap. Then you're saying to a player, you get to choose where you want to go, which again, that is capitalism. You should be able to go where you want to go. But the bigger market teams certainly would benefit from that. But with that, do you think a model like this would greatly benefit big market teams more and hurt teams and markets like Denver?
Yes, I think it would benefit big market teams on kids at the top of the draft that are being told by your agents, you need to go to LA, you need to go to New York for your marketing ability, for your ads, for your outside revenue, all the things that have nothing to do with basketball. It would hurt teams like Denver, Utah, Cleveland, Orlando. I mean, Orlando, pick team. So outside of what, Boston, Chicago, New York, and LA, those other teams, it's a tougher go. I don't like it. I just think he's saying this to get the attention of the league that I'm so pissed. Stop making it so blatant. Stop being dumbasses. Just make it halfway competitive. Run rotations. Just don't play a guy and then all of a sudden take him out the fourth quarter. Like, just do it in a way that looks less ridiculous. That's, I think, his message is like, if you can't figure out how to make it look less ridiculous, we're going to take drastic measures. I just don't think they would get to that. Now, again, Silver, I really liked Silver at the beginning of his reign. I think it's become a two-player controlled league at times that's hurt them in ways that, it just allows the players to kind of run the league a little bit too much for me. But in this case, it feels like, Eric, it's not a veiled threat, but it feels like just right now a threat, not something they would actually take action on.
The other area where it would really not be a positive at all, this would affect trades tremendously because a lot of teams throw in draft picks for trades. And oh, by the way, if it becomes a free agent system, think about all the draft picks the Nuggets have given away. Suddenly that gets washed away. And then the team that made the trade, they don't get any of those draft picks. I mean, is there a cap to that? Do you get grandfathered in? How does that work? I think the best way to do it, and I honestly, I don't even know if this would wind up in court, right? Who is the arbitrator over Adam Silver when he decides you get fined $500,000? Does this go to court, right? Where I think the best solution is if a team is tanking, you take away their draft pick or you take away draft picks. That to me would be the most punitive. By keeping the draft, love capitalism, but I think there are too many potential problems by making it free agency. I don't have a problem if it's free agency. But then again, when NIL came in, everyone's like, well, great, at least the players are getting something out of it. But those that don't know, there's a big difference between NIL and the NIL collective. NIL is not a problem. NIL collective is a problem. So taking away draft picks to me is the solution. But if a team doesn't agree with Silver, is Silver now judge and jury on this?
Yeah, typically that's, it's collectively bargained. They've given him that authority. You could challenge it, but I'll just say this. But
who do you challenge it to? That's my point.
You challenge it higher. You take it to court. The problem is those CBAs are ironclad in terms of how you mitigate and how you legislate authority in terms of suspension, discipline, all of that's laid out in a CBA. It's almost like your phone agreement. If you've ever read the fine print on a phone agreement on how to get, I'm going to get a free phone. Oh, they screwed me. And then you read it and like, I have no chance. Like they cover every possible scenario. So again, I just think he's trying to say enough. Like, this is embarrassing. Can you just tank the right way and stop making it so obvious? But it affects 3 or 4 teams. It's frustrating. But to me, I think it'll eventually, it'll just start to bleed out. The issue is, if this were 3 weeks left in the season, nobody cares because it's like guys are hurt, guys get shut down. That's how you tank, is guys just get shut down for the season. They just took it to a level of end game. So that's really the issue is, but how do you say that this guy played? Because in some of those cases for the Jazz, the guy's playing like 25, 30 minutes, So if you just saw the box score, how can you accuse them of tanking? You can't tell people how to play their players on their roster. So I just think in-game stuff you have to deal with in some way, because you could never, because they could come back and you'd say, well, why didn't they play this guy on a back-to-back? Why did they give him, like that gets way too, that's impossible to legislate. I just think it was a threat. Enough. Can you just tank like the old days and just put guys on the IL so they're not available and just tank with bad players? That's how everyone tanks, Eric. Just put terrible old guys out there or young guys who aren't ready. Don't play your team 3 quarters and then sit them and make it look stupid.
Is there a better solution than what we already have right now, which there is a lottery?
I'm not crazy about the lottery. Because it just feels like, I don't know. I don't like the lottery, but is there a better solution?
I got to tell you, it's pretty amazing to me. I'm not accusing the NBA of collusion, but how in the world did Greg Popovich get a #1 pick with Robinson, Duncan, and Wembanyama? And then it just seemed very interesting to me that Dallas trades Luka, and suddenly they have the #1 pick in the draft.
And LeBron suddenly ends up in Cleveland. Like, it's just, I'm not tinfoil hat guy at all, but
yeah, me either.
Their lottery is very suspicious at times. It feels like guys are directed, or make it a little more transparent. Like, I don't know. I just, it's not great. I just wish they didn't have to have it. But again, bad teams and poorly run organizations have created that you've got to create guardrails because they're so stupid and so incompetent. We have to legislate them to be halfway competent. And that's frustrating.
I mean, I can tell you as a matter of fact, and this source of mine was, because it was years ago, was impeccable. Make no mistake about it. The Nuggets management wanted to tank for LeBron.
Yeah.
I can tell you that with 100% certainty. If I told you the source, you'd be like, that's as good of a source as it gets. They wanted to tank, right?
Yeah.
And you do see that all of the time. I just don't know what the best solution is. I agree with you that Silver put that out there as a threat. And quite frankly, I don't have a huge problem with it if you find a way to close doors to loopholes, but I just don't know how you're able to do that. I mean, all of us loved, or not loved, and I shouldn't say all of us. I love the idea of players getting NIL money to do commercials, to be able to benefit from in the, campus union bookstore. A player has his name on a jersey, they should benefit. What they should have done was NIL is real, but the NIL collective needs to go away.
Yeah, well, the SEC fought it from jump that we want to keep it because they have more money than everyone. SEC and Big Ten don't want it to go away. It kills the other teams. At some point in football specifically, it's going to be 2 super conferences like AFC, NFC with like 40 teams, and everyone else is playing like a subdivision. Because the return on investment, like at places like Colorado, if you're a booster that gave, I don't know the figures, so this is a hypothetical. You gave $2 million to keep Jordan Seaton. There's no return on investment. You saw Troy Aikman talk about this. He gave the money for the quarterback that's at Oregon now, and then he leaves, and you don't even really get a thank you. It's like people aren't going to keep giving that money without some type of return on investment. I'm with you. NIL, where they're doing ads and they're doing stuff, that's where they should get paid. The fake NIL, which is a double payment on top of the NIL and scholarship, that's making it too greasy for me.
That's going to do it for us. Hot Takes, Goodman and Renck. Happy President's Day, and make it the best possible President's Day you can.